there's only so many hours in the day. And if you're going to be a creative, then you have to take time when you can. There's the people that are sleep deprived because of what you're describing exactly, like that go, go, go mentality. Even when they finally are like, oh, I can get into bed, their mind is racing. This is amazing. Like I just felt like you feel like a different person when you're sleeping on a regular basis. If you have any doubt as to the importance of quality routine, quality sleep, take a look at shift workers. Sleep is the foundation for that. So whether it's personal or professional goals, or whether it's, relationships or your own metabolism or your health, whatever that is, sleep is the foundation.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of 23 Journeys, a network for creatives. I'm your man, Mr. Todd O.D., hanging out with Naomi Joy. Boom.
Sorry. Bye, everybody.
Today's guest is Michele Kreuzer. She's the founder of Behavior Buds. She's a behavior analyst, sleep expert, entrepreneur, and a mom who helps families and founders of businesses structure their days. Rest at night. From sleep routines to scaling your business, Michele blends science, strategy to help people thrive at home and at work. Welcome, Michele.
Thank you. That was a great introduction. Thank you.
No problem. We're happy to have you here. So one of the biggest things that a lot of creatives lack is a proper sleep schedule. And I felt your expertise in that area would help build some insight, because with us as creatives, a lot of times, we are very fortunate that we get to do our creative business full time. Mm-hmm. That's not the luxury for everyone, and we have people who are weekend warriors, we have people who are hobbyists, and then we have people who do it part time. So they can work their normal 9-to-5 job, maybe work for a bank, work for a fast food restaurant, wherever. Then they start doing their side gig, whether DJing, photography, and everything. And the tough part about it, especially if you're a musician, photographer, videographer, even writers too, graphic designers, is that we're night owls. Mm-hmm. And that's the only time that we have time to get the work done. But what happens? We don't sleep.
Yes. That's a very good point. It's true. So I find that there's two kinds of people that I work with. There's the people that are sleep deprived because of what you're describing exactly, like that go, go, go mentality. There's only so many hours in the day. And if you're going to be a creative, then you have to take time when you can. But then there's also people that have true insomnia. And even when they finally are like, oh, I can get into bed, their mind is racing and they're having a really hard time. So they're giving themselves that time to, unwind and rest, but their brain isn't ready for it quite yet. And that happens a lot too with creatives, because you're that go, 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 go. So when you finally stop, your brain is still racing.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know for me, I've had to take melatonin pills in the past to kind of just help me get regulated and whatnot, because my body wasn't producing it properly and whatnot. I mean, we're not going to say for any medical, but are those certain things that you would recommend, or are there other methods that you would recommend for people to fix their sleep schedule?
Well, the way you said it, I'm guessing that was a short-term fix for you, the melatonin, which is fantastic. That is actually the recommendation. So if you find that you need something to help you sleep, there should be a short-term plan to get off of that, because your body does naturally produce melatonin, but sometimes some of the things that we're doing, it's not allowing our body to produce that efficiently or as soon as we want it to. Also, a lot of times people are taking melatonin right before bed, but it takes your body a little bit to adjust. And so people that wait to take it until they're actually ready for bed, it's not going to kick in. So if you are going to take it, it's great to a short-term fix, but then taking it about an hour before you're ready to actually go to sleep is very helpful.
Wow. Okay. That's actually a good point. 'Cause I did notice when I was taking it, I'd take it before going to bed and I'd still be like.
It's your body just waiting for it to kick in. Yes.
But that's good. What, like a half hour before going to bed?
Approximately an hour before you're ready to go to sleep, take the melatonin. Yes.
Okay.
And I will add too, a lot of times it's been well talked about that like blue light suppresses melatonin. And in a recent article that I read, a research article, it stated that it actually is not as detrimental to our sleep as we had thought, or as scientists had thought, that it only slows down the production of melatonin only by about 10 minutes, which is not a big deal. But when we're on our phone and we're scrolling before bed, that's the actual problem. It's that addictive nature. They want us on our tablets or our phones, that they call it TOP, time on platform. And what can we do? All the little bells and whistles to get us to keep, scrolling. So it's actually the doom scroll that keeps you up, not the blue light.
I've actually found too, because a lot of times I'll like to read at night before going to sleep, and I'll notice sometimes if I'm reading in like a book app on my phone and I'm reading, but then I'll get a notification and I'll see it and then I'll go to something else. So it's like I'll notice if I pick up an actual book and I'm reading in bed, I will get sleepy a lot faster and go to sleep sooner than if I'm reading it in a book app, because then I get distracted and I'm over here and my body's not actually relaxing. Whereas if I'm reading a book, I'll start falling asleep and then put it down.
So true. Thank you for saying that. That's a great point. I'm a book reader. Like, I love books. There's something about it. So I never thought about that, but it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So then, all right. So helping people get a little bit on your background. So what inspired you to focus on like sleep? One of the parts of your business is you focus on child sleep behavior and whatnot. And what led you to that passion?
Great question. Because when I started my business, sleep was not the focus. So I started Behavior Buds so I could work with parents and teachers to help address difficult but very common behaviors with children. And so I go into the home, into the classroom, on the soccer field, wherever the behaviors were happening. And I started to notice a trend that when a child wasn't sleeping, the behaviors were escalating. Parents were, of course, losing patience, because when a child is not sleeping, then the parent is also not sleeping. And so I thought, I need more education in how I can help these children fall asleep, so that way it helps the whole family. And the craziest thing happened. As I was going back to school to learn more about sleep, my sleep started to improve. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, I just felt like you feel like a different person when you're sleeping on a regular basis. I'm like, I love it. And so I kind of became obsessed. Everything I could read, the podcasts, everything. And, networking the whole time, trying to grow Behavior Buds. And I would have people ask me, well, this is great that you can help a child sleep. Can you help me sleep? And I really started to think about this. Like, okay, I never really thought about this, but I'm noticing my own sleep improving. And Dr. Matthew Walker wrote a book called Why We Sleep. I highly recommend it. It's fantastic. And I was listening to one of his podcasts, and he said, if you have any doubt as to the importance of quality routine, quality sleep, take a look at shift workers, because they're at a higher risk for Alzheimer's, cancer, and dementia. And, heart disease. Dementia and Alzheimer's is the same thing. So I literally, in that moment, felt like I got this punch in my gut, like, because my husband and my father are both shift workers. And I thought, here I am trying to help families, and it is very important. But here, I didn't know my own family was at risk. And so then I really became very, very dedicated and very driven to find out as much as I could. And that's when I went back for more schooling. Something, even when I was struggling with my own sleep, I never heard of. It's cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. It is the #1 treatment. I never heard of it. I struggled for years in my 40s without sleep. I went to a doctor. This was never discussed. And I thought, how is it that I struggled, never heard of this? And even when I went through my first to become a certified behavioral sleep practitioner, never heard of this, because I was working with children. And then the moment I started learning more about adults, it was just like this epiphany. It was very eye-opening for me. And I thought, this is what I'm meant to do. So.
That's awesome. Such a very great journey from starting from kids, families, and then now your own family and other adults.
Yeah, it's like finding your passion and then just moving with it, and then you're learning more and more, and it directs you as you go. And
absolutely, and it's pretty cool because it's definitely a path that I was not planning on taking, but I was led to that. It was just meant to be.
And then, so you hear a lot about hustle culture, you know, all the time. I think it got really, really, really popular during the early 2000s and whatnot. You know, it's like I would always hear rappers say, it's like, "Oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead," kind of thing. And but there's always a hidden cost at living that lifestyle. So, what do you feel are some of the hidden costs for an entrepreneur who's not sleeping?
Right. Well, I mentioned the health implications. You know, and it's not just those things that I had mentioned before, you know, a higher risk of heart disease and cancer and all of those things that we don't want to think about are happening long term. But even in the short term, if you're pushing yourself, you're making more mistakes. You know, you're not as focused. It's taking you longer to do something because you're really having a hard time. You're literally, your cognitive ability is going down when you're not sleeping. And I think we've all been there where it's like, oh my gosh, like what is wrong with me? I keep making mistakes. Maybe I should step away. And sleep is so important. There was a fascinating article that again, I'm very like research driven. And there was a research. Now this was college students, but still learning something new. And what they did was they taught all of these kids, I say kids, they're young adults, all of this material. And then they said, okay, we're going to divide you in half. Half of you are going to go home. You're going to get a good night's sleep. You're going to come back tomorrow and you're going to take the test. And then the other half, we're going to wait a few hours and then you're going to take the test. You would think taking the test on the same day that you learned the material, you're going to do better. But it wasn't that way. It was the people that went home and slept. They came back. And the way it's described is if you picture your brain as a sponge, when you're learning something new, and as creatives, we're always trying to create that something new, right? So when you're learning something, it's like a sponge. You're able to absorb that. You're able to take it in. But then when you're sleeping, it's like that reset button. So you have something called sleep spindles. So all of those short term are going into your long term while you're sleeping. So it's impacting your memory as well as your cognitive functioning. So when you think of that creative element, you need all of those things firing on all cylinders.
Oh.
You know what that reminded me of? You ever saw the movie Inside Out?
Yes.
So it reminds me of like when the girl goes to sleep and then her body starts shutting down and everything. They take all the stuff from the day, start filing away in the filing cabinets. And I feel like even though it's a cartoon, I feel that's kind of what's happening. Our brain is taking our experiences from the day, filing away into the subconscious, maybe going into the unconscious and whatnot, but it's storing it so that way it becomes part of our processes, because the subconscious brain is the brain that remembers everything for you. You know, our conscious brain is kind of just what helps, like how we talk right now.
Right.
But once things get internalized into subconscious, like that's where the sleep, I remember reading something about that, where the sleep comes in, it helps store it a lot better. But that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that too. I've never heard anybody say that, but it's so true. And I've seen that movie and I never thought of that. I love that.
Cartoons. Watch more, everybody.
I think too, it brought up too, like how a lot of people say, like, I just need a day to think it over or whatnot. Because a lot of times too, like how you brought up with the test example, you'll be trying to absorb everything and to answer right away. You haven't processed all that information yet. But then like when you go to sleep, you're thinking it over, like even subconsciously, you get a good night rest. Then you can actually respond more accurately.
Absolutely. And it's so true. Something that, like, to expand on that, sometimes when you're going through a problem, and it might not necessarily be a problem, like a personal problem, but it could be like something creative. You're like, oh, should I do this? Or what way should I handle this? Or, you know, how do I want this to look? Any of those things. And sometimes when you just allow your brain and your body to have that rest, it's like you wake up and you're like, oh, that's what it should be. And I actually wrote about this on LinkedIn just the other day. I posted because my husband wanted to go camping. And I'm like, I love camping, but I don't want to do that in, 90 degree weather, And so, tent camping, okay. And I wasn't thrilled about it, but, we went, and honest to goodness, it was the best thing that could have happened. Thankfully, the weather was like being in the middle of the woods. It was like 80 instead of 90, like it was, at home. But there was something within Behavior Buds, and there's a program, and I'm like, what do I want to do with this? And I kept going over and in my head, like, could hire, or I could, I let go. And I kept going back and forth, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And the more I thought about it, the more I just was like, I just don't know. And going there, we had no Wi-Fi, nothing. So I wasn't getting any emails, no calls, texts. I told my husband, I said, we better be careful because we're not going to be able to call anybody if we get hurt. And then the second day I woke up, and here I wasn't even thinking about anything, but my brain wasn't all over the place. Like we're constantly thinking and dreaming and doing and all of this. And Sunday morning I woke up and I was like, I know what I'm going to do. And I was like, I felt like a mile a minute, like talking to my husband. I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And I think it's because I gave my brain the break it needed. So it wasn't just the sleep part of it. It was that go, 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 go. And really, even though I'm sleeping well, I wasn't fully giving my brain and my body like that time to just,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then would you say that, so doing that trip, basically taking a vacation kind of thing, resting and recovery and whatnot, because I was going to ask about what's one behavior mindset shift you think that you could recommend for entrepreneurs to do to improve maybe their sleep schedule, but without hurting their workflow, though?
Oh, gosh, there's a few things. The one thing, it's going to sound so weird. This is going to sound so odd, but don't try to sleep. And I'm going to preface with it. Yes, sleep is very, very important, but did you ever try to do something so hard that it stressed you out to the point where you can't do it?
Yeah.
So if you're like, oh my gosh, I just heard Michele and I have to get my sleep because, I'm worried about my health, or my creative, juices flowing and all that, and I have to make sure I go to sleep. When you try to do something so hard, when you're saying, I'm going to try to go to sleep, it actually hurts that whole ability, like that ability to relax. So that's one thing. If you catch yourself, and also if you catch yourself saying, I don't sleep well, I'm not like, I remember when I wasn't sleeping well, I would tell everybody, I'd be at Wawa going, and they go, oh, hi, how are you? I'm like, I'm tired. I have my coffee though. So trying to stop that constant talk about how we're not sleeping actually is very important. And then I would also say having a buffer, especially for, like you described the people perfectly, maybe they have the 9 to 5, but they still want something creative, like whether it's the hobbies or the second job or a business like they're, building, is give yourself time where you're not doing that, like true downtime, whether it's reading a book or, listening to, something meditative or whatever, watching, Friends, something that you've seen a million times, but you still enjoy. But give your body that. It's called the buffer zone. So often with kids, we think about a bedtime routine, but for adults, it's just as important. It may look different, but that time is just as important.
Wow. Okay. The buffer zone. So like just like kind of like she said, she reads a book. I sometimes will play video games.
Okay.
And whatnot. That's my unwinding after a long day of being a superstar videographer. And, it helps me get back to earth.
Yes. And it's different for everybody. Like my husband, if he was playing video games, he'd get lost in that and he'd be up until 4:00 in the morning. He knows he can't do that. Everybody's different. I talk to people and they're like, I can't read a book. I'll be up all night. Like I get so into it.
Yeah.
We're all different. So you do have to find the thing that works for you.
Right.
Okay, so sleep is often tied to emotional regulation. I know that's really true with me too. If I don't get enough sleep, I get very like cranky and emotional and all.
No lies detected.
How does that affect how we deal with tough clients, like make high stakes decisions or communicate under pressure then?
Oh my goodness. Fantastic question. Well, absolutely. Our sleep definitely impacts our like mental health. It really truly does. So not only how we respond to things, but I mean, like I had mentioned before about parents. A child isn't sleeping, they're not sleeping, and they're not as patient, then they're feeling guilty for not being as patient.
Oh, that's totally me.
Yeah. And then, it's like, oh, and then you're beating yourself up. Why did I do that? And it's like, this cycle that happens. And then also how we respond to things in general. I know I was joking with my husband because he can do exactly the same thing, but based on my sleep, I may respond differently. So he may do something and I'm like, oh, that's just being John again, and I can laugh it off. Or I'll be thinking, are you beeping kidding me right now? You know what I mean? So he might be doing exactly the same thing, but it does. It impacts the way we respond. I've actually said before, if you think about any goal you have, okay, we all have goals. And it doesn't matter. It might be that you want better relationships, right? You want to be more patient with your children, or maybe you want to lose weight. It's summertime, look a little better in the bathing suit,
Beach
whatever.
bod.
Yeah, anything. It's sleep. Sleep is the foundation for that. So whether it's personal or professional goals, or whether it's, relationships or your own metabolism or your health, whatever that is, sleep is the foundation to that. And it has a huge impact. And there is a direct correlation between depression and sleep. So that's definitely. I'm glad you touched base on that.
It's cool too that you brought that up, even too, like with losing weight and all, because I actually just went on like a mini diet a little like the other month.
Okay.
And I was eating less, but I felt more energized because I wasn't eating right before bedtime. I was eating earlier. So then by the time I went to bed, I felt like my body was actually digesting. Like I actually had a good night's sleep and everything. And I was like waking up refreshed. And I'm not a morning person, but my body would start to naturally wake up earlier because I was getting a good actual like restful sleep too. And all, like I saw that huge difference.
Yes.
And then also too, another thing with how you mentioned with the kids, our one daughter, like when it's school time and we have that routine down, they're always going to sleep at the same time. They sleep in, and then we'll have that couple hours at nighttime before, like after putting the kids to sleep, before going to bed, that we can get some other work done or whatnot. But then during the summertime, their schedules are all off and everything. So then our littlest one, our older one's not so much of an issue, but our little one, she's just go, 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 go. So then when it's bedtime, it might take her a couple hours now to get to sleep. And then there goes those couple hours that I could have been doing something work related. And then now I didn't get that done. Now I'm stressed out the next day. And then I can't sleep because I'm like, I need to do this, but I don't have time to do it. And yeah, it definitely plays a part in everybody in the family.
Two thoughts. One, I'll talk about the children first. So during the summer months, a lot of parents that I'm working with are like, it's the summer, we don't have all the stresses and the demands of school and everything going on. And so it's, we're okay right now. And so they'll go to every other week or, I'll talk to you in September. I will say September is super busy for me. And it's because parents and children and families are trying to get back into that schedule. And they're seeing and they're like, whew, we took off from this schedule for months and we're seeing all kinds of things because we're trying to get back now into the school routine and get the kids awake. And so, of course, that happens. And then also you had mentioned like the when you were on the diet and you were like finishing eating a little bit earlier, your body loves that routine. So there's something, the circadian rhythm.
Circadian rhythm. Yeah.
Yep. So it's basically our, 24-ish hour clock. And sleep is so important. Our body loves that routine, but also eating is part of it too, because your eating impacts, your digestion, and that could impact your sleeping.
Yeah.
So it absolutely is. And then the other thing too is if you notice, and so years ago when I really struggled with sleep, whenever I didn't sleep for like several nights in a row, I felt like I could never like eat enough. Like I would get the snackies and I'm like constantly eating. And I thought it's probably my body's way of needing energy and it's just trying to find it through food. And then I learned that it's actually your hormone levels are totally out of whack. So there's hormones that tell your body like, oh, I'm full. I don't need anything. And then there's other hormones that are like, no, give me, more. And they literally go in the opposite direction. So that's why we're craving all of those. And our bodies crave sugary, more fattening, higher caloric meals and snacks when we're not sleeping. So it totally impacts.
That makes perfect sense too, because then I'll be like at night, like wanting to snack, and I'm like, but I just ate. Why do I want all these snacks? And then I feel guilty for eating like the chocolate or something and then it's like right before bed. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
the midnight snackies.
Yeah,
that actually does make sense because you're staying up, you're maybe watching a movie, playing games or whatnot, and you're like, chomping on chips.
It's hormone levels.
Yeah. Huh? What do you when it comes to men and women with sleep schedules, me and Naomi had looked up stuff before, and it said that women need more sleep because of how their bodies are structured more than men. Like men can do 6 hours of sleep, be good, keep it going. Women need 8-10 hours of sleep and whatnot. Do you see that a lot in your work?
I do. Yes, you're absolutely right. For whatever reason, women do need more sleep. I'm not sure exactly why that is. And at first, when I really started talking more to men and women, it's funny because men are a little bit different. They'll admit, they'll say, I don't sleep well, but I'm okay. Whereas women are like, overall, not all the time, but women are like, I can't sleep. I need your help. And men are like, I'll be good. I'll be good. I can handle this,
I think, what was it? I think it's because like in the past, before we've had this modern society, men, hunter gatherers. And I think it was based off of a lot of different types of stuff. Like I looked into stuff, but I was like, men, had to have that more spring into action kind of like with our bodies and such. And then I also came into like the night shift came into is that like some people are night owls because they were part of the group of men and women that stayed up to make sure that no animals attacked people while they were sleeping during the day. So it's like a lot of primitive behaviors affect us to this day because they got ingrained into us, our cultural unconscious like bodies, mind, and everything.
And you had mentioned like as far as being a night owl or something, so that can very much impact people that are working because it's called a chronotype, whether you're a morning bird or a night owl, something like that. But if you are truly a night owl and you're staying up later and that's your natural tendency, and then you have to get up early, it's very, very hard for you to do that. And so sometimes your work schedule is actually not matching up with your personal like body clock. So, and sometimes you have to fight it. Yeah.
Fight it or figure out what's the proper work to do.
Well, that's true too. If you can just change that, start your own business. There you go.
Late night podcasting.
There you go. Exactly.
So another question, we touched a little bit on the kids' sleep and all, but when the kids sleep, we talked about how the parents don't really sleep that well either. What are some structures besides just bedtime, like a set bedtime or something, that business owners and parents can introduce at home that helps everyone, especially their peace of mind and all?
Okay. Are you talking about specifically for having a child go to bed?
Yeah, so like helping them get that routine down and going to sleep and all that way they set up that routine. Besides just 8 o'clock is your bedtime, like what are other things they can put into play?
It really depends. So whenever a parent is reaching out saying my child's not sleeping, it might look different, but I'll take a very common problem. So parents will say my child's waking up in the middle of the night and they want me to go back to bed with them and lay with them to fall asleep. So I always ask, how is your child falling asleep? So whatever, and this is the same for adults as it is for children, whatever way we are allowing ourselves to fall asleep or whatever we need in order to fall asleep. Like some people are like, I have to sleep with the TV on. I have to fall asleep with the TV on. Or some children have a difficult time falling asleep independently, so that, okay, it's 8 o'clock, good night, love you, going to bed. Like, that doesn't always happen. Sometimes parents have to stay in the room with the child, lay down with the child. Sometimes I've worked with parents who are like, I have to sleep on the floor until my child's asleep, or I'm laying in bed with my child, whatever that is. And so that is when I tell a parent and explain, your child is waking up in the middle of the night, seeking out that same exact situation or the setting in which they fell asleep the first time. So if you're in your child's room with them when they're falling asleep, they wake up in the middle of the night, they want you back in there with them. So then we have to teach the child how to fall asleep independently. Sometimes people hear sleep training and they think that, oh, it's the cry it out method. I'm not one of those parents who can just like let my child cry. I can't do that. But there's different methods to helping your child fall asleep independently. So there's a check-in method, there's a camp out method. So it really depends. But typically when somebody is having some question, we kind of like look at it a little bit. Whether I work with adults or children, the beginning is exactly the same. There's a sleep diary. Let's take a look at what's going on, because there's so many things that, and it's difficult too, because sometimes one strategy might not work for two different people. Like you could ask me, how do you feel about naps? If you're tired, well, maybe that for you is a good, situation, because you're not sleeping. You're not like you're short cycling your sleep, and you really, really need to catch up. Maybe you have true insomnia. So it's sometimes hard to give strategies or tips for people, because depending upon what their struggle is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Does
Yeah.
that answer that question? Sorry.
Yeah. So it was kind of, we were touching about, so not only like certain times, but also figuring out how they fall asleep and getting that in more of a rhythm for them to fall asleep more consistently.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And the one thing too, like you had mentioned, where your daughter has a hard time calming down, there's actually a strategy. It's a quiet time bed box. So if your child is they're like, whoa, we were, at the pool all day and had sugar, and they're like running around. There's something where you have a quiet time bed box, and it's special activities that is only for that time. So it's something that your child's looking forward to. So there might be like a sticker album in there. There might be a special like coloring page, or some kind of like maybe Play-Doh, something that is meant to be quiet and sitting, something she can do independently. And it's kind of like, bringing her back to that point where she'll be ready for bed, because you can't put a wired child to bed.
Yeah,
good luck with that.
Yeah, they get up like every 5 seconds and they're like, okay, well, let's talk about this. It's like, no.
Yep, that's for sure.
It's like the kids' equivalent to the adult video games or like reading a book and stuff, but just the kid version of that. It's cool.
And that whole structuring for the kids and stuff, it's very powerful. Like me listening to that, because I'm sure there's a lot of creative parents that are just like, oh, I need that. But also for like the creative adult themselves, I mean, they need structure, because you say that structure creates freedom. And I guess we just talked about the bed box for the kids. What about for the entrepreneur? Like, what kind of structure would you recommend for them? Like, should they set an hour of time to go to sleep? All that.
Yeah, definitely like the buffer zone. But I'll actually talk about something they shouldn't do. So sometimes people are working on their computers, and so they'll go into bed and they'll work on their computer in their bed.
I think I know somebody.
Oh, okay. We're not going to say any names.
Nope.
Anything like that. But what happens, especially with people that have a hard time sleeping, okay? There's some people like, hey, if you can be on your computer and you're like, okay, I'm going to finish this up, close it, put it down, and go to sleep, that's awesome. But what happens is you want your bed to signal sleep. And when you're doing other things in your bed, that's signaling this isn't a place for sleep. So some people might get into bed and they start to worry. Some people, if they're not having that time to unwind, then they get into bed and they're like, oh my gosh, I forgot to email this person and I need to take care of this. And why did I say that? All of these things, and the mind starts racing. And so your bed is literally signaling like, oh, this isn't a place for sleep. And you need to change that. So I always say you should only be, it's sleep and sex in your bed, nothing else, no work, no phone. Really try to uh, take that out of the equation.
Right.
Yeah. Very, very important.
Good points. Good points.
That almost relates to back to how when we used to run our business from our house, we never really had any separation from work in our house versus family time and all, because we would constantly be around our kids, constantly be around our family, but also work. So it's like almost like coming home felt like work. It wasn't coming home to relax and all, it was coming home to work. So then when we got the studio, we moved work over here. It's like, okay, we do some stuff still at home just because of the nature of the beast, but most of the work we're like, we have a place to go now for it and then come back. So it sounds like very similar, but just now in the bedroom and the bed aspect.
Right, absolutely. And I love that. That must have been what, like, once you got the studio, it must have been a little bit of a relief. Like, okay, we're leaving work, you know, like locking that door and leaving. And then you can feel that. And that's one thing too, is sometimes our brains go, go, go. So when you're leaving here, if there are things that you know you need to do for the next day, just writing it down. I talk about this all the time with people. When your brain is going, 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 take a moment and write those things down. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. If you are a person who's worrying right before bed, you don't want to worry, like I said, you don't want to be worrying in bed. So you're outside of your bed, and you could do this before, like in that buffer zone where there's just a lot going on, and you write it down. So I'll talk about it's called a constructive worry. And if you think of 2 columns, so on the one, you're writing down anything that you're worried about, like it could be, I have a project that's due, or, my son's going through this, or my mom's having tests. It could be anything, right? And you write down all the worries. On the right-hand side, you write, what can you do about it? And sometimes in that moment, you can't do anything. It might just be, I'm going to give my mom a call. My son, I'm going to pray for him. I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to take him out, for ice cream tomorrow. I don't know. For the project. Okay, I'm going to set aside 3 hours tomorrow and only focus on this. Whatever it is, and you're getting it out of your brain and you're getting it on paper. And for whatever reason, research shows that it's better to do it with paper and pencil rather than on your phone or typing it up that way. The other thing is sometimes it's just a million things, like, the phone calls, like emails, like to-do list, right? That I suggest a brain dump. Literally take a blank piece of paper and just write everything. It doesn't need to make sense. Everything in your mind, get it out and get it on the piece of paper. And then once you're like, okay, I think I'm done, I don't think there's anything else. Once you're like, I think I'm good, then you take it and you put it aside. And the weird thing is, I promise you're going to look at that in the next day and you're going to be like, some of this isn't even important. But for whatever reason, it was in your brain. Get it out of there.
Yeah.
Okay? I find that very, very helpful.
Very nice. Right on. That's good. I mean, she likes to write before bed, so I think it's great advice for Naomi.
Yeah. Well, too, because it makes perfect sense, too, because, like, I always found, like, even when I'm working on finances, there's so many apps, there's so many things, and we use a lot of that. But then at the end of the day, I like to sit down with just a journal and literally write it out, because I feel like it's getting out of my head and I'm visually seeing it and all, which then I might take the answers of it and put it back in the app just so I have it mobile when I'm going somewhere. But I just like that aspect.
Yeah. I don't know. It helps.
Yeah.
Are there any overlooked behavior tools that creatives or small business owners can adopt so they can stay regulated and more focused?
I don't know. Okay, repeat that question one more time.
So
I'm thinking about what I'm already thinking about what I suggested.
Well, what are some overlooked behavioral tools for creatives or business owners that they can adopt so they can stay regulated and focused?
Oh my goodness, I'm trying to think of something we didn't already talk about, because that buffer zone. I'm gonna kick myself when I leave here.
You'll think of something.
Why didn't I say? I will say. One thing, and I kind of mentioned it, is anytime I work with anybody, the first thing I do is start with the sleep log to really look at it. So I would say if there's a creative or any person who's really struggling with sleep, start to do a journal. Really start to look at what time are you going to sleep? Maybe some things that led up to it. Did you go networking? Did you maybe when you were working, you had maybe a glass of wine with it? Like start to look at your behavior patterns, because that could be very, very eye-opening. And anytime you're trying to change behavior, the moment you start really recording data on that behavior, you start improving. Like if you notice, like we talked about, if we want to try to lose weight, you're writing down your food, you automatically start improving what you're eating because you're really looking at it. Sleep is no different. So if you really are struggling and you're like, okay, where do I start? I would start with a journal and really record what's going on, and it could be very eye-opening. I found for me, if I drink any alcohol past a certain point, I know I'm done for. I know I'm going to be up, and it's going to be a heck of a time for me to fall back to sleep. So sometimes I'm like, is it worth it? And sometimes I'll be honest, I'm like, I'm going to do it. And then other times I'm like, I just can't. It's not worth it. But you can learn a lot about your own behaviors and about how your body responds through that.
Okay. All right. You've definitely answered a lot of great questions for parents who are creatives or just entrepreneurs and everything. Naomi, did you have any other questions?
No, I think we went over a lot, and it was a lot of good information and all that we can put even into practice ourselves.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm putting it tonight. Where can people connect with you and maybe explore options of like getting coaching or whatnot?
That would be fantastic. So what I've been doing a lot more lately is trainings. I was at Rowan University a few weeks ago, and I did a training called Supercharge, How to Achieve More Through Better Rest. And it was very well received. I would love to do that training for businesses, colleges, like groups of people that are looking how to improve. But one way to reach out to me is www.michelekreuzer.com. The spelling is a little goofy. I'm guessing it might be on your...
We'll put it in the links.
Okay, perfect. And my business number is 609-774-8713. So I love talking about sleep. I love, helping anybody I can. So yes, reach out.
Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. This advice will help a lot of people, whether in your creative career or even just in your personal life too, because sleep is very, very important. So.
Yes. Get your rest, everybody.
Yeah, get your rest, everyone. So if you'd like to see more of what we offer for more episodes, visit us at www.23journeyscreative.com. I am your host, Tato Datsun, with Naomi Joy. We are here with Michele Kreuzer. Thank you so much. You all have a great day. Catch y'all later.
Rest, everybody.